Okay, I think we've all checked in except me, and Pi will check in also soon. Yeah, I also want to bring myself into the group space, and why we do these check-ins also is to kind of get to know each other for sure, but to create since the beginning, this will be a collective journey that we will go into. It will definitely be very personal, probably to many of us, and we have a little bit different intentions and interest why we are here, where we are coming from. So, but yeah, at the same time in inner dance, we will counter more and more that we're going through the personal process and at the same time very collective process. So this group journey will be very collective, and we are creating a space where when we are journeying or needing support or wanting to share and learning things, we are learning from each other a lot. And we will be also seeing, reflecting like how much we can trust this process, how much we can trust the group process and each other. So hopefully all of us can contribute to create that safe space when we want to share in the group. We can share about our processes, about our questions, about our wonderings, about our fears, about our dreams, whatever comes up. So we will use the WhatsApp space and also these study calls to check in and share. Mostly the Zoom calls, which will be the weekdays, will be also the Sunday calls, will be kind of theme or theory based, but we always will have space for sharings. And that way, each journey we are doing now online also is very unique, because what we all bring into this space will also kind of formulate where we are going and what are the themes and topics that are actually relevant right now to all of us, and what are your individual expectations or areas where you want to work, where do you want to focus, what area of this study you want to open more and deepen. So we will offer as much as we can, also personal support, whatever support, one-on-one mirroring, mentoring you need. So you have me and Pi you can contact in a private channel. Then we have this group space, and then we have these calls, and part of these calls will be also shared with our quite wide global study group, which is right now over 60 people. The global community is huge. There's thousands and thousands and thousands of people who has been journeying with inner dance, but the last 3 years we've gone into very focused study modes and looking at the frameworks and the science and how can we integrate these into more society, different areas of life and research. So everyone who's been going through the study process with us, these intensives, some people have been going multiple rounds, some people has been doing live trainings. We've opened a study, kind of ongoing study group called Studios Mundos. And that's something that will also open up to all of you. And it has amazing souls and beings who are into lifelong study journeys. Maybe some of your friends are there too. There's facilitators and space holders who's been with this for 12 years or longer. Some of us since we were born, or way beyond we were born also. So we have a lot of knowledge and experience that we can harvest from actually the community that we are in. So Sunday calls, we have around 90 people who are kind of have access to participate, and then we also bring in, sometimes we have doctors who work with us who come in and we look at certain topics, sometimes teachers, parents, if we're looking at very particular themes, people who work with music more, or music technology, and we will look at different themes in the Sunday calls. So that call space, it will be a wider community, also possibility to kind of network, get to know each other. The beauty of I think what has started through inner dance, this global movement, is almost wherever you go or travel in the world, there's people who has been in touch with inner dance or holding space or somehow know it, and through my experience, there's something we all can kind of, even inner dance will be very different for each and every one of us, but there's something that connects and an understanding, something that I cannot even put into words. So when we meet people in different parts of the world who's been into this process and have some understanding, there's some underlying connection that feels like a family and feels like supportive for in my journey. So I highly recommend, if you do go somewhere or travel, you can always ask us or people, like, is there someone in this country or that country, and just even meet and go and have a coffee or glass of wine or a dinner, or do sessions together or co-facilitate or learn from each other. So that's a beauty, I think, in this group right now too. We are really all over the world here, and yeah, thank you for joining in first and foremost. Also the ones in Asia like us who are in a zombie 2 a.m. or midnight zone. But if it's possible for the people in Asia to wake up, I personally love sleeping. So I'm not the biggest fan. Sometimes we've had 3 Zoom calls per week, and I feel like our local team calls us zombies sometimes, because they come here at 8 o'clock to work in our Earth Village, and we've had 1 hour sleep after Zoom calls. So I was kind of resistant in the beginning. Pai loves, because he doesn't sleep anyways, maybe 2-3 hours a night. So for him, the nighttime is like perfect time to zone in and do the calls. But I kind of learned to love it too, because when I wake up now, I slept 1.5 hours, and then I wake up, there's a different zone actually we are in during the nighttime. So even it might feel awkward, but yeah, thank you for connecting from Malaysia also. And then we have people from Dubai who are also in a zombie night zone. So okay, so to bring myself in, yeah, my name is Ituli, that's a nickname. My real name is Ida Maria. I want to check in with you a little bit about my story with inner dance, also to maybe find like contact points. Why am I here with you? What can be meeting points where I can support or mirror and co-journey with all of you. So I will try to keep it short. Some of you I also know, and some of you are from my motherland in Finland, where I used to live. It's weird to say that I don't actually live there anymore, but I've been living now 4 years in the Philippines, in Palawan. And but yeah, I come from the snowland, North Europe, and I've traveled a lot, and I lived in Senegal, and I've been in India maybe 9 months. And I've done some kind of journeys where I felt like my travels during my life has allowed me to kind of slowly open myself outside of the box where I'm coming from, which can be cultural belief systems, paradigms where we are coming from. So I've explored things. I've studied. I'm almost 40, 1 year to go, and I feel I'm like a baby. I also feel I've already got some knowledge and teachings and learnings during this lifetime. And then half of my life, well, since 15, I started, my mother put me to yoga, and I got quite an alternative upbringing through my mother, who was a reflexologist and homeopath, and she kind of supported very natural lifestyle in a city for me and my sister. and she passed away 3 months ago very suddenly. And I'm realizing now how much I actually am influenced, and how grateful I'm from that part of my upbringing, which is connecting nature but living in a city and urban setup. So I was kind of in touch with, I would say, yoga therapy work. I trained in classical massage and shiatsu therapy and Chinese medicine and Ayurveda, and I shopped around a lot of certificates, and a lot of was about body work, my interest. But I did a career in NGO world, so I worked in global child rights organization for 12 years, and my life was an amazing organization working for children, and but I was a producer, so I had a quite hectic 8 to 5 computer, a lot of Excels, budgeting, doing big TV concerts to raise money, was fundraising, or I worked with a lot of activist kids, which was amazing few years, but most of my time was office life and computer work, and super hectic timetables. I end up sitting, and I had a moment where my grandmother died, who had Alzheimer, and I took care of her, and I had 3 kids from my partner that time that I co-parented for 4 years, and we broke up, and many parts of my personal life kind of split, like in 2 weeks time, basically everything happened. And then I had to question, like, okay, what's left right now for me in Finland? And I asked at my work that can I have a sabbatical year off, that I actually need to kind of check in and have a break and see what this is all about. So I did a big process, also breaking up from 3 kids that time. They were like my own, and changing my life. So I ended up going to India for a search of yoga master guru. I really wanted to see like the origins of that time. I was teaching yoga and more in that path and meditation, all this therapy work. So I finally got a chance to take off and then going into studies. And I tried to find all kinds of workshopping around India by myself, and doing trainings and things. And what I kind of, if I just concentrate, I found amazing things, but I found a lot of also narcissism and ego and power dynamics inside that world. And yeah, I realized I'm searching for something, like someone above me who can then reveal me more secrets in the yogic path. And yeah, 6 months I wasn't so satisfied what I discovered there. So I was in Dharamshala in the Himalayas, and I sat in a cafe, and there was an English lady, Katie, and then she gave some small poster, and she's like, oh, hi, and we chatted, and her daughter was there. She was 11 years old, and she said, I'm doing this inner dance workshop. Do you want to come? And I said, well, I used to dance and teach children's dance classes, so why not? Like, that sounds fun. And her daughter was also facilitating, Thai. She was, I think, 11 years old that time. So I went to her workshop. We were a few people. I laid down. She put the music, and I was just waiting that when is the moment that she would come and tell me what to do in this inner dance something. And she just said, lay down and close your eyes. And I was waiting, and I was analyzing, because I didn't totally resonate with the music. That time, inner dance playlist was this song by song playlist, and it created like from slow to a little bit more emotional songs and more intense songs, and then it slowed down. But she was also mixing some English pop songs there, and I was like, oh my, I don't know, what is this? And I don't really like these songs and the music, and she's not doing anything, like she's not telling me what to do or giving me any guidance in this moment. And sorry. Yeah, then something happened that changed my life, which is this my little finger started to move like this. I was laying down and analyzing the whole thing, and then my little finger started to like wobble, and it kept on going, and I couldn't understand it. I was like, I'm a very skeptical or analytical in my mind, and I come from a society which everything has to be explained by science in Finland, and it's very kind of academic world and research based and school system and everything. And then I'm coming from there also, that if I study something, I really need to see it and understand it. And that moment, it shook me that there's happening a movement in my body, that I'm not the one moving my finger. Then I had to question, like, okay, she was a Reiki master or something. Okay, maybe she's doing now something with this Reiki stuff or energy stuff, and maybe then that's true because my finger is moving, but she was on the other side of the room. So I was like, okay, this, I don't know what this is. So basically that session I was just analyzing, and the movement started to happen, and then my whole right hand started to start to create like a circle, and it was just moving. So my first thing that came to my mind, and that opened then, that there's something in this world that is totally unknown for me. I've studied a lot of things, but I cannot understand where a movement comes from if I'm not consciously moving myself and no one else is moving me. So what is movement, and where does it come from? And that moment opened up this very deep inquiry, and also understanding that there's something there that I cannot explain with my logical mind. And that's eight years ago, maybe almost 9. I went back home. There was nothing like this in Finland. There was not much this in Europe that time either. There was no Kundalini anything that time. It was Kundalini yoga or some maybe rebirthing and breath work would have been closest to these things, but still it was very different, because there was no technique. There was nothing in that space where this sensation happened. So I really wanted to study. I felt kind of in the first moment that if I can feel this and this opens, it's like a bridge or opens a gate in the world, that everyone should feel this. Everyone should feel this, but I couldn't know what is this that everyone should feel. So I couldn't share it, and I couldn't understand it, and I just really wanted to study. So trying to keep it short, that time, yeah, Katie moved from India to Bali, and then I was searching. She connected me already to the Inner Dance Global and Pi and people who were holding space a lot that time, and some study groups. But I felt I need in person, like I really just need to go somewhere where there's people doing it, because I couldn't find that in Finland. And then I traveled to Bali. I found also an American lady who was doing trainings, and they were kind of short time package, so it suited my work timetable. And I traveled three winters always to Ubud, where was a lot of inner dance that time. Then yeah, how would I then look at it? Maybe after 1 year or 2 years, I got some courage, because I met a girl who had been in the Philippines, and she had the playlist. I had the kind of experience or courage to hold groups or invite people into the circle, but I was totally not comfortable with the playlist and the music. But then Anna, she had been in Philippines, and she had got the playlist and the music kind of confidence from working with Pi and being exposed to inner dance here. So when we met, we had a cup of tea in Helsinki. We decided, okay, we can maybe do this together. So let's invite people. She puts the playlist, and I have like the people who can come. And we did the first inner dance session in my living room with maybe 5 people, without really knowing what I'm doing. that much, but I was just so excited to offer it other people the experience that I had, whatever their experience would be, because I already had noticed in 2 years that everyone will have their own inner dance and everyone can have similar experiences, but it's always also very, very personal and different. So we had first session and the feedback was basically mind-blowing. It was very deep, and bit by bit by from that time I started to offer it more. And for me that was part of the learning process, just to be with people, to journey together, to facilitate, to lay down myself more, to explore more. But my first 4 years, I would call it that it's like my area of study was learning through the experience. I needed to unlearn everything that I had studied before. I really had to forget any meridian directions of energies or acupuncture points or massage, anything, even how do I work with the body, because I wanted to tap into this field, like what is my intuition? How can I trust it without knowing everything? My hard drive in my head was full of information from my work. So I worked a lot with my brain. So I really needed to take off from that. But then slowly in 4 years, and also because I studied with my teacher in Bali, who she changed the name, she kind of did the same thing, and where CAP comes from, and the founder of CAP was my student friend in those trainings. She kind of packaged it in a way where the experience was sold as okay, we make a business out of this session and experience, but there was actually no frameworks or theory that I would have got that time. So my studies kept on being very experimental. And then the things with those studies went very commercial, very, this is level 1, now you need to go to level 2. You're never good enough, you need to study more, you need to pay more. Suddenly it's $2,000, and then it's $3,000, and then it's mentoring $5,000, and I had to kind of cut my cords with that lineage of training, and also working closely with her, because I couldn't feel aligned with it anymore. That's the time where Pai went off, kind of to his own retreat from teaching or offering inner dance, and then Benant changed the name from inner dance to CAP, and my teacher did inner guidance, and there happened like really interesting like power dynamics in the community, in the world, where everyone suddenly wanted to brand inner dance and make a business out of it and make like their own thing, which is happening now too, which is meant to be, and something maybe we can learn from. But yeah, it didn't feel good for me anymore. And I had also been doing the same. I had also kind of sold people in Finland to go into this brand, and even to go to Bali to study this thing with my teacher that time. And I realized I started to question myself, like, where am I taking people through this process? I'm offering this that they will end up to go in someone's marketing funnel and paying money to a one person who wants to brand this. And there was a lot of things happened those years, and suddenly I realized I'm part of something that it doesn't feel aligned, where my own inner dance journey started from a very simple wiggling finger, and suddenly I am part of this whole spiritual business branding, what kind of logo I'm allowed to use and what colors to be able to do this work. And it just started to box it in and limit the actual like creative evolution that I felt that is still in the inner dance community, but not in that form that I called it inner guidance. So yeah, I had to kind of cut myself off. It took a year. And what I noticed that time, we were all using, if some of you and you've been going to CAP sessions, so what Venant was sharing is the old inner dance playlist in his training. So we always used the same songs. It was like it's conducted the session by putting songs after one another, and there's certain way how then we are going to look at this in the theory parts of the music, but it's what I also conducted for first 4 years. It creates people into very deep emotional spaces. A lot of catharsis can happen. A lot of, you can feel their kundalinis and explosions and a lot of crying. And you could almost like, I was kind of able to know in the sessions, like, oh, I put this song, I put these people to cry right away. And then I push play that button and select that song. So it goes not manipulating in any bad intentions, but you already start to know what songs, how songs affect. I kind of like what Matt was saying, that it's still this 3-minute pill. So partly we were doing it in inner dance that way because it was amazing. The energy was really vibrant and moving those first years, and everyone was doing this song by song playlisting. But what also I noticed in Finland, it kind of started to create experience seeking and addiction. So people wanted to come more and more, and this was really big in Bali and Ubud, that people just wanted to get the high of the energy. So they were just seeking the huge experience and explosions. And if you have a one big amazing awakening or kundalini rising or thing, and next time you don't get it, you actually get like, you don't get your hit, you don't get your drug. So this type of work can be also addictive, and we will talk about it, why and what are the kind of conclusions or research what the global community has also done, and why the playlisting and how the evolution of using sound as medicine and where we are now, which is quite mind-blowing that we can actually work with doctors and certain conditions by conducting certain sounds and playlists. So there's been a huge journey in the space holding itself, in the playlisting, in the music. And because the first 4 years I explained this process to people, like, oh, this is just magic. Oh, this is energy. This is something like, I don't know how to explain this. Even I knew there's all these theories, but Pai was also offering those years. But for me, it was just, this is intuitive. I don't need to know what I'm doing exactly, because everyone gets these amazing life-changing experiences, because this is very magical, this energy. And then when you repeat these things for year after year, and people start getting particular processes or conditions, and they would love to get support from the facilitator or the one who introduced the work for them, and I couldn't really answer because I had to keep my journey in the kind of learning from the energy and the experience, which was very important and meant to be in my path. I started to look at study, like, okay, I cannot explain this anymore being just energy, and what does energy even mean? So then I would kind of put the last 4 years of my process. I came to Maya for a little bit over 4 years ago, and I wanted to also like know what the community here was doing, and what the research was about, and what the knowledge part it is. And it's for sure Pai has done a lifelong research on these topics, but then there's other people too. So for me, there was like coming into source, meaning coming into community, and somehow the roots of where this movement. Bye, Auntie. see you soon. And where does it come from? And I came here, and I think what I found to that time was my own process to go really, really back to nature and kind of rawness, and in my own being, like what does it mean to be truthful to myself. I always thought I'm a very honest person and I speak my truth, but through some very deep processes I went through here with inner dance, I started talking and I hadn't heard my voice talking that truth before. So my opening was somehow connected to be here in the nature. I felt like home, so there was some kind of knowing already that I'm meant to be here. I didn't plan to move here or live outside of Finland, but then life happened, and we understood with Pi we're actually meant to be a team, life partners, a family. We are like following our purpose together and found like a big openness how where we go and what we are meant to do with this all. So then life happened and I went back home and I knew I need to move here. So last 4 years been mostly getting to know what does it mean going back to nature in a sense where we live outside. We don't have really doors or walls. There can be a lot of different creatures that come into space, and slowly year by year getting comfortable of having all kinds of insects and animals and coexisting in the nature with plants, co-creating gardens, growing our own food and looking at how can we live sustainably here. So what is my inner dance now can be a lot with gardening, planting seeds, looking at how things are composing, how kind of life cycle works. So I think my study of inner dance is how I see it nowadays. It's like a really wide study of consciousness, because what happens in the process and what happens through the energies is such a wide topic. If you listen to people experiences and then even think like what should I study to understand that experience or that experience, and suddenly it becomes like an umbrella of life or consciousness. And if I then study inner dance, what does it mean that I can understand all those movements and processes that are happening in the space, in myself and in others? So it has shifted from taking trainings and offering workshops and sessions to like a lifelong, looking at very lifelong understanding of a study of consciousness. That to put your thank you. So that's my inner dance. It's with locals here. We do a lot of community work. We have 25 village families that we support. Amazing village kids we've done this earth school, providing livelihoods. We have 2 cows. I'm from a city and I'm actually taking care of cows now every day and putting cow poop to a garden, having 4 dogs and cats. And right now we have a training happening here. So we have 15 people here living with us on the mountaintop for 1 month. Some people stay 2 months. And it's all inner dancing all the time. It's not so intense. Then maybe the first years, we today had a 4-hour session, which was quite amazing. To some people wish they've been here for 2 weeks, and then they ask like they really, really want to stay in. So then we decided to create this kind of womb room that we just kept on going, and it was really good. Oh, okay. Can you guys hear me still? Yeah, I think it's good. Our Wi-Fi satellite went off a little bit, but yeah. So I'm really, really happy to be here. I'm looking forward, us all learning from each. I'm really looking forward to learn from you guys. For me, this study space, like, it's a gift to bring all of our knowledge together and all of our questions, and whatever we learned in life, if we gave birth to a baby or we divorced or whatever we've experienced in life is part of the studies, and we gain some knowledge out of every single experience, and learning from those to be able to understand more all of our processes is my school with you guys. So whatever I can offer from my experience, I'm here the whole 3 months, and I'm really happy to support and go through things what I know. I'm a student of all of this myself. Even I repeated so many rounds of the knowledge part and the frameworks. I'm going really slowly with my brain with it. So I'm with you. If someone feels sometimes there's so much information and things, I'm in the same boat. And yeah, I'm looking forward to see how and where do we take this journey together. And yeah, I think that's my check-in. Because we usually, these Zoom calls might be 3 hours or so. That's like a normal length for us. That we have time for also questions and sharings and the theory and talk part. So we try to keep a small break. Also, if we are sitting down, all of us, you can also be in the calls, and you don't need to be on a video here. So you can also choose if you just want to listen to audio. I'm sometimes gardening or cleaning the house and listening, because it helps my brain actually to understand more when I'm in a movement. So all of us can feel what is our own way for our bodies and brains to stay focused 3 hours, because it's a long time. But to help, and if you feel you don't want to be on the video, you can always switch it off and just listen to the audio or share also through audio. But it's really amazing to see you guys now. So I'm happy we are all like finally we are faces here. But we'll try to rhythm it a little bit also. So if we are sitting and listening, so we don't fall asleep. Even you fall asleep, it's fine. Then it's part of your inner dance study in that moment. But let's have a short break. And so also if you need to pee or get a cup of tea or water or anything, so we can just have a short breathing break of talking, and then we'll continue. So I'll start kind of saying some noises here when we continue, but 3 to 5 minutes. You can have a short break.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I hope everyone's really good and really also quite here. So a part of me wants to dive deep with you, and there's a sense of invoking what is new, because I've spoken again and again and again about the same thing for so many years now. The inner dance journey for me has been 16 years, and what I offer is just what would it be like to have held this energy for so long. It's inconceivable that one can be in it when sometimes a single day feels like eternity. Someone asked me before, can I look at your notebook? I want to see what your mind looks like. And when she opened it, like she just laughed. I don't think she was surprised. My handwriting is kind of messy, but just the way the words just had this non-linear approach to things. It really took me a long time to be understandable because I was still coming from there, making my way to here. that place where we come from. When we go where we go, whenever we go, when we go, which brings us here, right? So I feel like I'm landed. I have 2 children. I have this beautiful partner. We have dogs. We have community. We take care of a little society. So I like to think that I'm more understandable. In the past, I used to hold these trainings where everything in the infinite just gets talked about in so many different ways, minute by minute. Yeah, it took some time to land. And what does that mean anyway to come here? This is just my way of introducing so we can get to work. When I go into a retrospective, like what was that? What happened? There are these stories about living on an island on a deserted beach, eating coconuts. A lot of that's accessible. I wrote a book about that, so I don't have to speak about that. Where there were these downloads, there was a remembrance, there was the mother. I'd rather look at the gist, the big picture, like what was there, what was that. I feel like we are reconstructing the earth. It sounds so conceptual, it sounds so poetic. But that really was what it was. It wasn't like what it was. It's what it was. Like how do you reconstruct an earth? It becomes possible when you can deconstruct an earth, and you have to almost do that with this awareness that, like, this is the earth. You know, it gets to a point where this is not the earth, this is a galaxy, and then this is a universe, this is a multiverse. It's really up to you what reconstruction project you commit yourself to. So this is what we're doing. This is what we're doing here. A lot of people think, oh, it's like a spiritual workshop. People lay down, there's music involved, and people touch bodies, and there's some kind of activation, and then there's healing that happens. All of those are interesting. There needs to be some kind of containment for us to have continuity. Containment and continuity are 2 concepts or words that we can hold again and again that has philosophical and scientific and spiritual meanings. But that's what it is. We're redoing or remaking what took millions or billions of years to make. And we actually dare to do this overnight. So the earth could be like your earth. It could be understood as your world, your reality. And I ask you the question, do you deserve like a new earth? Do you deserve it? Do you have it in you to remake something? So if you were given, let's say, a pen, and here is the blank canvas, the white page, so what would you do with it? What would you draw? What would you paint? if you were given the paintbrush. So I think that's what we're given. And sometimes when you do see the body start to paint, to draw on the pages of energy, is it actually possible, that change or transformation could come about? So when people talk about the source and people write to us, okay, I heard that you were the one who taught, my friend or me, then who taught me? Then my teacher is the earth. If there's a lineage, then my teacher is the earth. She's my teacher. I lived long enough for the earth to receive something, and then this got passed on. I was asked, would you do it? And I knew that everyone is asked, but I was available. I was depressed. I was suicidal. Nothing made sense. This was a few months after 9/11, 2001, when 2 buildings collapsed, and I something inside me said, so that was a while ago. So I just learned to listen. I learned to let go, and I heard this voice, and synchronicities happened. Impossible things became the ordinary. It was like the mother was everything and everyone speaking. Okay, listen to me. There's something like quite crux. Crux is core. Core is heart. Core is essence. Core is what's the point? What's the point? What's the point in me? What's the point in you? What's the point in today? What's the point in right here? And the point ended up being like everything is the point. Everyone is the point. Every day is the point. And somehow all of these points arrange themselves so that it creates this like big picture, this story of all stories. So we can understand that as an energy field, a brain state, a historicity. I don't like to say history. I don't even like to say history because it shouldn't be his story. It should be her story too. A historicity is different. It's almost like history itself has a history. So bottom line is, it's about that. What is the point? The bottom line is, it's about time. It's something to do with time. We're ancient and we're old. We're new. And for you to reconstruct the earth means you have to reconstruct time. Time perception, time as a mechanism. So when you wield this gift, some people call it like a power, a tool, what you're actually holding in the palm of your hands is time. Time 3-dimensional, time infinite, time interdimensional. It's up to you how much time you can hold. Our greatest fear is there's not enough time, and our fears of death, the mother fear, is based on that time is linear, which means there's a point, and then there's a point, a start and an end, and maybe that's it, and we don't know, because that's what our senses tell us. So that's the meditation, and you can keep holding that, and it would never grow old in the work that we do. That's what I ask when people are laying down, and as the music begins to take people into what is not time, which is space, I keep asking that, like, what is time? What time is it? And what is time? And when people are done with what is personal, what is the story, what is the emotion, what is the trauma, then there's this interest as to not only as to who am I, but what are we? You know, this difference, right? Like, who am I? And what are we? Who or what? One is subjective and one is subjective. So I was really just the one who was there with the notebook. How many notebooks? I probably had hundreds, if not thousands of notebooks. I that's my addiction. If I have an addiction, it's notebooks. And I took notes after holding not thousands, but tens of thousands of bodies from all the continents. I was the one, you know, here's the Chinese going into the infinite. Okay, here's the Indians, here's the Africans, here's the Australians, here's the people from Poland, here's the Slovenians, here's the Americans, you know, here's the people from Chile, here's the Cuban. Okay, and that was my inbox for a long time. People would write me saying, this is the inner dance community in Malaysia or Singapore, and this is what's happening. As if the earth was the eye that was looking back at itself, and we were that eye. Like, I am looking at the mirror, and the earth is looking back at itself through me. And the inner dance in all of these places historically was so important. The global spread in those first years were so important. We were picking notes. We were picking up insights, taking notes. Some people would say, okay, like, this is in the first year. They're like these small people, like small people, and when we go there, they're actually there taking notes. They're like, oh my God, like these humans, they're finally remembering how to connect, because it's been so long since they learned to connect. And then they talk about these big beings just staring at these humans. Ah, okay, they're connecting again. Finally. I never thought that this is something that we would do. In fact, this energy doesn't happen when you try to do it. It happens exactly when you don't have to do anything. And then it just does itself. That's why the word training kind of doesn't make sense to me. How do you train in something like this, right? I've always seen it as an intelligence. Like when you especially hit that, when it's really there, it's so messy, it's so chaotic, it can be loud. That's the contradiction, right? Like, what is it in this that the moment it's so chaotic and noisy, it's actually quiet? And the moment it's moving, it's actually still. Just in the same way, sometimes when you try to stop, this is when it actually starts to move. And when you try to find the quiet, that's when there's this internal noise, like what does God and the goddess actually look like? And when you look at the cosmos and when you look at the quanta, they're all dancing. So in that movement, there's something so incredibly accurate, almost like precise. It's like on point, even when it's not exactly like a dot, a point, a period. It's it's all mapped out exactly in the chaotic, the chaos and the order all coming together. So I would thank you and congratulate you for discovering this. Whatever you call it, I don't care if you call this inner dance, a kundalini thing, or it doesn't matter what we call it. It matters that you found it. And it takes a journey to actually get to that. It means you have to push your way all the way. You have to keep trusting, even the opposite of trust, which is doubt, skepticism. It's like maybe this is, and the more you actually trust even what you don't trust, because you're actually still trusting that, that's what gets you there until you don't know the difference anymore. And then you arrive at the gift that comes about when you keep trusting and trusting and trusting. It's this simple paradigm. Inner dance carries with it. If I could change the name inner dance, sometimes I'd call it trust, but it's really more of, if inner dance has a name, it would be everything happens for a reason. Or if you got bored with that and then you need another name, then it would be everything's connected. Or if you got bored with that, you could say like nothing is separate, or there's no separation, or everything is one. What if this new earth was that we could rebuild the earth and there's no separation, it's just unity? There has to be a process, there has to be a transition. So for me, when I talk about rebuilding the earth, it's not conceptual. I think we could do it. I think we can do it. I think we could actually do this, that like everyone is included, and we could harmonize from the ground up. Like it starts with vibration, and then we could get that down to the most mathematical, most algorithmic, the most like material, physical, ecological, architectural. We can do it. We can build a paradise. I don't care if you call it like Palawan or Singapore or New York City, London, Berlin. Doesn't have to be like Costa Rica, Bali, Goa, Ibiza. None of these islands. It could be like everywhere you look. I only see perfection, and I can manifest that without bypassing, without just deluding myself. Like there's a way, and this energy carries with it the blueprint. And if you spent enough time, if you had continuity, if you could sustain yourself long enough so that you're not reducing this thing, you're not putting it into a box, you're not oversimplifying the complexity that belongs to the universe, the earth, the ecosystem, the brain which has quadrillion connections, we can read it. We can read the map. I don't know if you remember this movie called Lucy by Luc Besson. Um, like Lucy having access to her whole brain became like this um, flash drive, which looked like the cosmos. I don't think we've got an issue on creating that flash drive. I think the flash drive is there. It's already called the universe. We're already able to reflect on the nature of so much time from the Big Bang to the black hole. We have already the remembrance. The information is there. The question is, who's going to read that flash drive? What supercomputer can read the infinite, and who's going to interpret that? We need to change this whole system. We need to change this whole system, and we deserve to know how this system works. So then we can call it a workshop, we can call it a spiritual modality, or we can look at what it actually is. And you come here because you kept trusting it and trusting it and trusting it. I think it's time to speak straight, go to the heart of it. And listening to all of your videos, your intentions, I feel so clear. I feel so damn clear. I really needed help. Really need to call forth support systems. Like no one can do this alone. I do wish to retire at one point. I need you. I need your clarity. And I trust this energy. This energy knows. So I need to kind of download the notes. And it's not easy. It's not easy to look at the notes. I used to call the thing like facilitator training. I don't like teacher training, facilitator training. I had to stop that in 2012, 13 years ago, right? And I called it energy school. The energy was the teacher. The energy was the student. The energy was the classroom. The energy was the curriculum. Yeah. It's the energy wants to know itself. And it had to be born as us. And it had to forget it was energy. I like energy school. It's very non-hierarchical. It's like, okay, everything, not just everything's classmates with each other. It's all like learning about itself. It's meta, it's like metacognition. It's like consciousness is becoming conscious of itself. Awareness is becoming self-aware. The system is waking up from within each and every part. And that takes a certain mind, not just the brain. The brain will be a big topic. But what is it that is conscious and aware? And what does it mean that it's becoming interested in its own structure? If you were the universe and you could look at the mirror, and you're not going to Google and say universe and you're going to see like a bunch of stars and galaxies. No. If you're a universe, which is the idea that all of creation exists there, and if you could look at the mirror, what would you look like? And so if you compound all of the inner dance experiences that have happened since day one, and maybe that didn't start with me, maybe that started with the universe, but just speaking from where I'm coming from, looking at the notes and what did have to emerge, so that a lot of things come to be, starting with what's called the conditions of possibility. Everything that allows this moment to be what it is now, with all of us gathered here globally, that created this thing called the internet, and this gadget that you're using, and this body at all that speaks, that it can be received by its own self. Like you are the part of me that chose you. I'm the part of me that chose me, and you'll never choose me again. We're choosing ourselves through you, and through this piano, and this thing, this thing, this phone, this pen. It's just becoming self-aware, and there has to be some kind of system for the collapse. For the hologram to go into, Bohm had a term for it. It's called the implicate order. So the universe would unfold, and then it would enfold back to itself. When you watch, let's say, Doctor Strange or Inception, the whole Earth starts to fractalize into itself, like Lego things that start to then go into fourth and fifth dimensional deconstructions. When you do go deep, you kind of see that. It sometimes pixelates and becomes cartoon-like. Then it starts to, okay, how do I keep putting the folder into the folder, into the folder, into the folder, into the folder, into the folder? It just keeps folding onto itself. And like you look at a point, and this is one of the ideas, the thought experiments, the invocations I give in the sessions. It can be formulated in these questions. How is the big also the small? How is the many also the one? And how is the inside also the outside? So you get them to journey into that, right? It's like, okay, it's starting, and then okay, look around you, and they're literally seeing it, and you're sensing that with them, and then you tell them choose just one point, and then suddenly their awareness is go to there. Boop. So it's like a point. Oh, okay, whatever you're looking at, it's like a big room, and then you looked at it, and it's like, okay, what do you see? A flower, a rainbow, a unicorn, and then you invite them because they chose that. Like, okay, go closer. This is you. You're choosing it, and then slowly, feel invited, and then go inside the one point. And then when they do, it's like a universe. And then just keep letting them choose the point in that universe. Okay, choose just one. That's what I end up always saying. Choose just one. And then they choose the point. And then when they enter a point, there's like a whole universe inside the point. So somehow this whole thing that was one decided that it would be like all of it, because it needed to experience itself, right? We got bored. We were just one. There was no light versus dark, hot or cold, and all that. So we had to fractalize ourselves so that there would be experience and creation and perception. I think we are starting to become aware of how we were able to do this. How did we construct the universe from experience? Like we can know this. And I speak this to you because what you end up speaking and evoking in the work that you do, have been doing, or will be doing, will hold a space. You know, you could talk about trauma, you could talk about emotion, you could talk about the Divine Mother. These are quite human, and sometimes it's really important to feel your humanity, because we are all trying to become good humans. But it's not enough. It's not enough based on what we know now. We know too much. We can't live with just this idea that we are what we think we are. We're not just what we are, we're also what we're becoming, and we're also what we were. So what you speak will hold a space. And you don't want to keep repeating the same thing, that this energy comes from this, and I got this training from this, and I'm going to activate you, you know, because that's going to hold the space. That's going to hold the space. But what really holds the space is the space. And we're realizing, you know, when I was living alone, when I was just discovering this, and I hadn't seen people in what seemed like forever, and I was just going into coconuts and breathing in air, not eating anything, and just going into this vegetarianism because of my interest in becoming light. I would look up at the stars, and it came to my attention that, wait a minute, these are my cells. These are my molecules. Wait a minute. Outer space is inner space. Outer space is inner space. And when I realized that, they started to move. They started to move because there was no difference. There wasn't separation. Sorry, I've got a cold. It's that time of the year. So why is this happening? Okay, fundamental questions. Why is this happening? We've been listening to music for that long. Why this awareness now? This could have happened before. We have to experience what we know now. And now each human is exposed to more insight and information than any other human in the history of our species. We're bound to experience that, even though what we know still isn't being taught in schools or enacted in hospitals or governments, corporations. We actually know what we are. And because we know that, we would experience it. It was only a matter of time. So you want to hold what we know so we would experience it. You just want to give it a chance. Like, you know, firstly, the inner dance happens because no one tells anyone what to do. Anything can happen. And we live in a world where always someone's going to tell you what to do, who to be, what to think. And it seems to be that rare that you come into a situation where anything can happen. And because anything can happen, then anything will happen. And it's just so rare. Everywhere you walk into, there's always projections, possibilities for judgment, And maybe it's really just that rare that you bring into concert every possible iota of openness in the way people lay down, in the way people can imagine, in the way someone might be, touched, in the way all kinds of music would both like trust and trigger, open and activate this simultaneity. It's like bring it into concert. Everything to do with the senses, everything to do with perception or experience. All the possibilities are laid out, and anything can happen. You keep it that open, and because the soul, the being, even the body appreciates that, don't even try to speak to their persona. Don't even try to speak to their ego, their psyche, and their stories. Speak directly to the body as if the body was like cosmic. And what you get is feedback. Because when you see something as it really is, you bring it about, right? That's kind of basic for our generation. Um, a lot of people ask, what does it mean to be healed? To be seen as you truly are is to be healed. And sometimes people are looking for like elements of stories, like, oh, okay, I want to go back to my childhood to see what was there, and all they see is like colors, vibrations, energies, and they're looking for something to hold on to. Give me something I know about who I am. And you're being shown like you're this vibration, you're this frequency, you're energy, you're these colors. This is what you're made of when you were painted from the beginning. You're vibratory in nature. That's how you started. Like, no, give me something when I was 7 years old, and give me some kind of childhood problem, some emotion. But you're being seen as you truly are, and you're becoming that, and the body is emitting this feedback. This is you, and you're being seen, and so the body responds. You circumvent the normal response mechanisms in the body, just responds because it's being seen as it is, which is nothing and everything and anything. Everything will happen, nothing will happen, anything will happen. You're open, you're not attached, you're not over promising. Don't over promise, because you'll get trapped. Don't tell them, okay, this might happen, this might not happen. Don't do that. You'll get trapped by that. Don't overpromise. Just be open, and then you will always be liberated from the tethers. And you do want to work with an energy that actually untethers and does not, you know. Okay, so today is our first call. I want to introduce myself from context, not from basics. I'm sure you're here because you know a little bit about me. I'm not interested in just relating things about my personal story, because I'm there's a lot written about those already. My book is one thing. There's so many Zoom calls already that you can review, and you can talk to me about that if you're interested. I'm interested more now in a situation which gets us to the point. I don't want to start simple. I'd like to just look at the world clock. What time is it now? And we want to make this specific, because this is not a Reiki training. This is not a pranic healing training. This is not a training on how to like do animation cartoons. This is not a training in gardening. This is an inner dance process. So we do want to be efficient and look at what is the inner dance in this. So what is the situation or in this energy that does have a container or containment? Situationer. There's a lot to talk about. Firstly, Italy mentioned that there was a time. I need to blow my nose, so I'm going to mute. Okay, so I'm actually only coming back now. It's hard to explain that I had to stop doing what I was doing in 2017. I saw that this was just going to happen anyway, and I've shared this enough to maybe 20,000 people by then. It's a lot of people after like 10, 11 years. I could see the structure, but there were certain things I needed to look at intently. So I went in a retreat. I told everyone, okay, don't talk to me. I don't want to be in interaction. I don't want to be in conversation. I need to look at this. Because that's what I did in the beginning. I just stopped and I just went away. I just stopped. I pressed the stop button and then I lived alone. So I did that again. That was like another round. And I do have that habit sometimes of just pressing the stop button. Because the energy wanted to look back at itself. And if you've been exposed to this, even like a day, even like a big session takes a while to digest. You know, it's like you know so much that you don't, because it's just so intense and packed and filled, and you know, all these explosions of dimensionalities living in inception time, meaning like a minute holds like could be a year, 1,000 years, let alone like an hour. You don't forget anything. Every single person that was there like took a part, and every molecule in the room, you can piece it together like some kind of big puzzle. So I think the mind needed to rearrange itself after, once again, like going into these. I was interested not just in the solutions, I was interested in the problems in the energy, problems even in the way I was holding the music, problems even in the way I was holding people's bodies. I had to be honest. I had to look at it like, what is in this that can hold balance? One of the things I've observed in others and in me is about ego. The ego can get really, really big in this kind of work. It could like be like a balloon, a greedy balloon. Like ego is not technically familiar to me. I belong to a shame culture, a Southeast Asian society where it's easier to be part of a tribe than to be an individual. There are parts of the world that are more, it's less about like you or me. It's more about like, I actually had to teach myself how to become a person. So I could see that there were problems, and these weren't like my problems. It's not your problems. It's just problems of consciousness, not even of the species. Everything is consciousness. We just think some things are not conscious. And we needed a structure. Without an effective philosophy that guides effective theory, there cannot be effective practice. This is what the academe is for. Whether it be education, economics, politics, it can't come from nothing. We can't just keep reinventing the wheel and make things up as if this is new and it's not actually built in the shoulders of that which came before us. No, we didn't create spacey space like that. We created time so that there would be this evolution that we could enjoy and work with. So ego is very much like, no, this is just me and a point in one line in a series of points. And I don't belong to anything that goes there and then goes there. And people do yoga, but the actual yoga is stretching yourself out. But things, you don't look like a line, you look like this, asterisk, what you call it, like whatever. So the problems are pervasive. They stretch across the whole thing. And could it be that you could get to a place where there's not actually a problem because you're beginning to perceive the connections? Often a real spiritual integrated person would look at a problem and see that actually that's the solution. You could look, whether it be like cancer, bankruptcy, a divorce, that's the moment of change when you realize that, okay, this wasn't working. And when you know how to look at it well, you would perfectly see that this is supposed to be happening and I'm going to work with it. So we need to not reconstruct the universe. The universe doesn't need reconstructing. We need to look at the way we're looking at things. You could be walking off the street, you be going to school or the office, you could be at home, it's all the same. And suddenly you bring yourself into conditions where suddenly it would explode or implode upon itself. And, suddenly maybe some people, they took some kind of drug, some people drank something, smoked something, some people had a conversation, some people took in a sound. It doesn't matter, whatever it was, the fact that it changed, that there was an alteration or an expansion of the experience. So what changed? The thing was there. It was there all along. What changed was our experience of the thing. And we experienced that thing because our perception shifted. Even though it seems like we blanked perception, no, this is perception. The way the body truly perceives sound and light in different ways, we can really experience what is always there, which is never not there. It's always there. Everything we need is there. It's a principle called irreducibility. Some people ask questions about like entities and protecting yourself or giving energy to others or absorbing other people's energies. Like, how could that be? That doesn't make sense. Like the energy of every being, whether it be a plant being, a molecule being, a person being, it's all a universe choosing to be itself. So it could experience itself. How can another activate this other, transmit to another? That doesn't make sense. based on the principle of irreducibility. You can't actually absorb anything from the outside. You can't subtract, you can't add to something that's already perfect. What you could do is you could resonate with what is happening in another being. And if you have that inside you, and if the other person has that inside them, then there would be resonance, because you're not teaching anyone anything, you're just reminding them that it's already there to begin with. Um, yeah. So situationer, yeah. Like I saw that it certain things had to be worked out, and 2017 was like a while ago. I only came back into actual sharing mode in a much larger way, maybe like last year. So that's me admitting that I didn't fully understand what it meant to totally hold this in a way that I would be confident and would be able to really share this. Not just as a spiritual enterprise, but like as as something that can be used by schools and hospitals and governments and companies, NGOs, parents, family system psychologists. Like that, everything is an inner. It's not just a dance. You could go inner driving, inner eating your breakfast, inner taking part of this Zoom call. Inner means convergence, outer means emergence. So that's my situation. I wanted to understand. I wanted to know, and I wanted a cohesion between philosophy, theory, and practice. Um, so I am really thankful that the energy did do its thing, whatever you might call this thing. Um, uh, yeah. So what I have to share isn't mine. I rarely share frameworks that are coming from me. When I share something that's coming from the earth, it's also coming from the energy. And I was really careful that it was the energy, like formulating it. Then I would take responsibility in conducting an epistemological um, uh, process of like checking in. Epistemology is based on how do we know what is truth? Like what are truth conditions? For something to be true, it needs to be well put together. It can't just be something like you say it's true because you think it's true at that moment you're saying it's true. We can't keep doing that. That okay, she said, but she said, but he said that she said that he said that he said that she said that that's true. You know, that we could do that and we could see what that does. No, like when you're saying something, that's a knowledge claim. And then you really need to unpack that. You need to really see, is it well put together? Is it coherent? Is there coherence in it? In the energy, in the science of it, in the spirituality of it, like, is it a mysticism? Is it a superstition? Is it science with an agenda? Like, is it intuitive? Or, like any of those, put all those together, the things stand. Is it well put together? Is it correspondent? Is it true for me as it's true for you and for everyone else? Is it shared? Is it conventional? Or are you just going to live inside your bubble and surround yourself with people who would believe the same truth? It's just kind of a cult, if you think about it, or a religion, or, Um, and then, is it practical? Does it actually work beyond just the thing in and of itself? Is it something that bears purposiveness? Is it pragmatic? Does it help in life, in getting us to become better humans, and really being in the planet? Does it help with education, with medicine, with value systems, with systems of governance? Like, how does it apply? How does that concept unpack so that it's relatable to all things, not just conceptually, but in a way that you can actually really apply it? Mm. So I think that's what this energy's been needing. This energy that's a universe backed into every molecule, getting unpacked. So there's a reason why we call it the intensive, because we could keep making it intense, or we could finally say, okay, let's make it intensive. A lot of people aren't interested in intensive. A lot of people are interested in intense right now, because it actually takes some time to make this intensive. When I do this work, if I'm doing the experience part, I don't actually like to charge money. I work on donations, because that part's easy. When this first came through, I would touch people, and then they would just remember I didn't teach anything, and that includes children. So when I do see this kind of boxed up like that, like, but this is free. This is just for everyone. What I do kind of do value systems with on a monetary level is the trainings, because that's where the effort is in terms of, like, holding the information together. That's where there's effort. That's actually where there's a lot of sustenance needed. You could see it. There's the masculine part, the feminine, the constructive part to the deconstructive part. When you share this effectively, because you're coming from this unconditional service, this love, people will get it if you do it well, and then they will start asking questions. And because you do need to giveth of yourself, then you do need to construct or create a container so that people will have questions. And you do want to be in the integrity of knowing, like, what is there. So it's almost like you need to organize your life around anything that you deem important. Is this important? Is this valuable? Is it worth spending time on? So you need to create a space, like, in your mind. That is not an epistemology, that's an ontology, the philosophy of being. Anything that you see is a being, is an existence, you need to make space for. If you haven't seen it, then it's not a being. But then suddenly, when you see this energy, it bears an ontology. And so you need to create space inside yourself so that that would hold, or contain. And that would start to reorganize things. If you value it, then, put stuff inside that container. So what a lot of people don't realize in the beginning when they see this, especially if they're watching this, say, this image, this video, or this person undergoing the thing, it's like, wow, that's a lot of chaos there. That's a lot of messiness. But when you're witnessing that as an experiencer from inside, maybe the opposite is true. Somehow the energy is organizing your room. This is your room. This is my room, And you start to create folders. Okay, this has to do with synesthesia, proprioception, embodied cognition, music as a way of entraining sound in brain, breath, and blood. This has to do with metaphors of information. There are these subjects, these study points, and they're like pieces of a puzzle all coming together in like a seamless narrative. Um, mm, yeah, what makes an intensive not hard? It's actually easy under certain conditions, but what makes it what it is to access this brain, this new brain, this exploding brain, means that when you go back to school, an energy school, um, everything's connected. Not like when we went to school, where okay, when it's time to do quadratic equations, subject verb conjugations, pronouns, nouns, categorizations, taxonomies of everything in science, math, whatever, everything was separate, and you had to learn these one by one in fragmentations, in categories, in folders. But here, when you develop this new brain, that's the reason why holders of this are not always easy to understand. It's because you're unfolding the folders all at the same time. So this requires multimodal, multidimensional, cross-conceptual thinking. It's like the story of language, the story of culture, which is the story of humanity, the story of the brain, the story of the body, the story of the mind, the story of spirit. It all starts to tell of itself, not from a blank space. So when you go back into the structure, the first part is when you leave the structure, you go into blank space. You become like a baby. Okay, you don't know anything, which is really grand, right? Why would people not want that? Like, okay, I'm tired. This is terrible. This sucks. And then I just want to become like a baby, the inner child. And that's really true. When you do look at the formulations, we can receive the brain of a baby, which has so much more connectivity than the adult brain. The baby has 100 billion neurons. The adult has 50 billion. So when I say becoming a baby, I'm not saying stupid, gaga goo goo, blank page. I'm saying connectivity. When you become that, you need to grow up again. But what we're talking about is not baby you. What we're talking about is baby universe. What does it mean to parent a universe? How does a universe grow up? What would, and the universe is interested in itself, so it would adapt to a new knowledge structure. So when you come to inner dance, from our side of the picture, this is our project. This is what we're interested in. And this is connected to the problem that I was seeing. When you normally go into that energy state, even with the standard classical definitions of energies of transformation, what some people call kundalini, the mind has to shut down. It has to blank out. And there are operations in the brain states that allow that to happen. Very much related to the addiction pathways, the dopaminergic pathways, dopamine. so the system would shut off, and then the energy would turn on. And the word knowledge, intelligence, and genius isn't always like spoken. What people like to talk about is like the ego death and the death of the ego, leaving the story, surrender, throwing out the garbage. But what isn't always spoken about is like, but what replaces the ego when the ego dies? Something needs to be born, and that's like the planet. It's like the collective consciousness is born, and the collective consciousness would not think the way a person does. So you need to access sort of like a school, an education system for the universe. And whatever you expose yourself to when you're there, what's spoken about, all the words and concepts spoken, it holds you, it contains you, and whatever story is told, you become that, because you're fluid, you're malleable, you're an energy, and when someone tells you something, you become that. So there are new ways to go back to school now. This is the school, the indigo, the Ajna. So normally it is true that when the energy rises up, this has to fall. And what we've been trying to formulate is it possible to not have to blank out this thing after this first stages? Because, like I advised people a long time ago, don't keep holding the basic workshops. Don't just keep holding the basic sessions. And that is what actually did happen. Because if you do, you will keep channeling the baby. And the thing is, you're also the wise old man or the wise old woman in the mountain who's lived through it all. Like that's another question you can ask or hold in the journey. Like, how old are you? How long have you been here? How many times have you done this again and again and again and again and again and again and again? So I feel that based on feedbacks that we're seeing anyway in children and in the old, that there seems to be ways of holding this energy that can access both spirit and wisdom, and then even knowledge applied. And I feel, listening to your check-ins, that we're all, I'm sure, interested in the same thing, because like this is the time, this is that time, it's about time. We've gone through experiences globally. We have access to the learnings from all of these experiences. We've taken notes, and we're interested in now. A true inner is a convergence, and an emergence is creation itself. An emergence convergence. So that's why we will go into complexities. I used to be hesitant to share these because I felt that I would lose people. There are so many findings in the neurosciences that sound really, 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 really spiritual. One of the findings is that we actually need to go back to this, and we're seeing this is not what we thought it was. We separated this and this. It's called the mind-body problem. The very roots of Western philosophy is the mind-body problem. That's a dualism. We're realizing that this is not just the body, it's the mind. But we redefine the mind as the extended mind. And what scientists are finding out about this body mind, which is spirit, is that the thing that actually helps it to hold dimensionality in time and space is movement. It's the dance. the way you access and move across physical space is basically how you eventually arrive at concepts. Everything you learn in your society was facilitated by your ability to move across spaces, geographies. And the thing is, when you colonize someone's movement, when you trap someone's dance, you also colonize their mind. When you tell a child, like, stop moving, sit down, behave, be a good boy, be a good girl, say this, think that, be this, do that. Um, then we got trapped. There's no coincidence that suddenly a liberation would mean, the body is its nature. Um, so yeah, we do need to bring it together, because one holds awareness, states of consciousness, and the other holds structures of consciousness. I find this really interesting that so many Westerners are so good at elaborating Eastern traditions, whether it be our yoga, our meditation, our shamanism, our energy process, including even inner dance. So if the Westerners are going to be really good at that, what do you expect the Easterners to do? Do you expect us to elaborate in our own systems? A really amazing scholar once said that, like, it's like this: the past of Asia is the future of Europe, and the past of Europe is the future of Asia. Like the East is becoming the West, and the West is becoming the East. The people from individualized societies are coming into the communal community, and then those from tribal collective minds are learning to become individuals so that they can embody that collectivism. But if an Easterner had an awakening, what if we actually awakened into the other side? So would it be possible that a science or a philosophy could also emerge from these places that have been, like, partly colonized, partly subjugated, and partly it took a long time for it to actually find its voice? Because usually it's the individual that speaks, but when the collective speaks, what would be the formulations? How would we put things together, considering these minds that I represent would be able to, from the quiet, from the meek, from the displaced, from from the bruised, from that which was taken over. There's something very nonlinear in the way things start to connect, that can hold dimensionalities that would contribute, that would be worthy. So then when something emerges from here, and people do take notice, and people do write, oh, okay, I heard that this comes from there, you actually honor, you honor those places in the world that had been inoculating, have been hibernating this chaos, this 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 embodied, um, you know, yeah, consciousness. Yeah. So yeah, situationer. Um, I'm really glad that a lot of you are interested in music. I think that's really cool. In the cognitive sciences, there is a coming together of the anthropological, the linguistic, the neurological, the psychological, the philosophical, and the informational. It's like that's cross-conceptual thinking. If you want to understand the mind, can you understand that without understanding language and the brain and culture, the story of the human, just evolutionary? Can you understand all of that without information networks? You need to draw them all out in some kind of mandala or some kind of map. And I feel what is missing in this current map in the science is music. We need a meta theory of music, and I feel inner dance holds I'm not going to say a meta theory. There's an actual proposal on what is music, which would mean if it was meta, it's not just music. Okay, so you can't understand music without understanding language. There are musical properties of language as there are linguistic properties of music. They both are communicative, evocative. They happen on these different sides. And the more you tap into music, the more you kind of shut down possibly language. But there is a way of actually turning on as well, this and this at the same time. But what is interesting that was observed in the inner dance process for so many years now is when people really go deep, when you send all of this electricity through the corpus callosum, the fissure between the two hemispheres of the brain, I noticed this early on, like people actually lose their language. I'm not just talking about this light language that seems to come out of people when they reach these expanded states. Light language, gibberish, that's always happened since the beginning, you know. There are explanations in inner dance on what that is. Babies utter the 800 phonemes that make up every single human language. So babies aren't just talking trash or baby talk. They're talking the universal tongue. So when people do the same thing, then that's an actual meaning making event still. But I noticed it in the beginning. You know, people would go into that and then you talk. They can't speak. They can't speak. So never really invalidate when you're holding circles and people can't really share after the process. Don't consider that okay, nothing happened or they're blocked. Don't ever say those things because very often those are the people who might have experienced even more, even if their body didn't move. Don't go into any system of interpretation that they're less. Usually, it's actually more. So I tried it out, and I would sit in front of people after they've gone through a deep process, and I'd literally go like, "Tell me your name," and I'd sit there and I'd watch them, and they'd go, "Oh, you know," and it would be like an hour, and they would just go ape nuts. They would just. It's one of the worst fears, right? Like we control the external through the way speech happens. Like the motor functions and the speech production areas are very closely interlinked. So when you want to negotiate your needs, you have to open your mouth and create these sounds. That's an old system. And when that system shuts off, there's something about the electricity passing through this corpus callosum, which could be through music, through something people ingest, like some kind of psychedelic or some sort of drink, but especially through vibration. There's so much electricity pulsating that it starts to affect the patterns. It could either be language comprehension, that's managed by the Wernicke's area. So people would sit there and then they would hear these words. They're like, oh, they're making sounds. And they I don't know what they mean, you know, or they hear the sounds, they know what it means, but they, they they try to talk. And I've seen people who did this so much that they lost their language, not just for hours, not just for days, not just for weeks, but they know, they're not being stupid, they're not being baby. They, they're the universe, and language was how the universe landed here in three dimensionality, so that there's a reason why you can't actually remember the memories before language. Maybe before 3 years old or 2 years old, language was the substructure upon which a yesterday and a tomorrow could be mapped out. For a baby, there's no yesterday, there's no tomorrow, there's no there. Everything's always here. So words actually hold a function in categorizing moments, sensory experience, so that when you hear like a word, or that could be a sound, or you could see an image, a lot of that is organized somehow by what you call language. Language brings together sounds and images, and words actually converge that so that it can unpack in time and space. So one of the first interesting things that we will study in the next weeks is how is music, movement, and language interconnected with each other. It's like there's this translation between the poet, the musician, and the dancer. Like how are they jiving with each other? Is dance possible without the rhythm, the melody, the harmonic? And when you speak, can you speak without tonality, without rhythm? You are following some kind of ebb and flow. There's a wave in the way you speak, and you need to read the room, which does have its own rhythmic, melodic, and harmonic patterns. There's this theory called music-language, which states that when language first came about, music also was there, so that we had to, in the ritual or the celebration after, let's say, the hunt, or after like a war event, everyone started to make noises. And then slowly these noises harmonized, and later they would become words that stores all of these experiences. So there's a reason why we are allowing language to shut down. It's because we're tired. It's because we're tired. If you want to change a person, the structure needs to change. And in structuralist philosophy, in Lacanian thought, language structures the unconscious. Before Lacan, there was Sigmund Freud, and it's like, oh, the unconscious is that which is unknowable. So when we started to go metalingual, we became meta-cognitive. When we started to look at language, okay, that's connected to the structure of consciousness. Later, we will talk about the structure of music. All of it's based in space and time. So one of my favorite meditations to share, I don't light incense, I don't, walk around staging people. I'm interested in when you speak. I'm interested in consciousness as well, not just the unconscious. When you speak, where are you getting the words? I have a 12-year-old and a 9-year-old. I have these two kids, and I used to ask that, okay, when you dream, where do the dreams come from? But when you speak, I ask that to you, your 9 or 12-year-old self, where are you getting the words? And how are you able to put the words in a combination, a sequence? How is it that even before you start the first word or utter the second, the whole sentence had already been completed? You know, how are you doing that? Who is writing that script? Is there like a small, tiny person inside you, like writing it down so that you just end up saying that after it's been written out? You have to do it outside of time, and I think that's one of the most amazing things. Like, how are you doing that? You know, it's purely intuitive. So when you do work with playlisting, when you do work with vibrations, and even when you touch bodies, there's a part of you that will just know, and you will draw that from the library. That's called space. Space is the library. You select the right word. How many words do you know? An average person knows at least 300,000 to 500,000 words. Some people know a million. If you're multilingual, you know a lot. So when you speak, how are you able to draw from this library automatically? So somehow in the inner dance, you shut down that structure. So there is this sudden, momentary, thankfully impermanent inability to sequence words because you're operating at the space that's beyond the sequential, the linear, you know, because you sent so much energy and electricity throughout this whole thing. So that's one of the projects. What is that for? That's not the point. We're not here to make that happen, but if it happens, it will happen. And it is a blessed event. In the West, you know, people get worried when that happens, but in the East, people are regarded as mystics, shamans, and saints when that happens. And you know, there are mechanisms to hold a boundary to protect that who has accessed that which is beyond, that which is transcendent. So language, music, movement, interpret translations with each other. Those are interesting. We want to study that. It holds the key on how we can be reborn. You know, that's the function. Also, because there are several ways of losing your language. There are patterns in language, and there's patterns that involve time. There are patterns that involve space. There's like an axis, an XY axis. One is linear and one is nonlinear. One is horizontal, one is vertical. So when you hold way more space, you will receive certain manifestations as opposed to when you hold more and more time. So for example, there's a difference between sequencing music one at a time. So when I started to hold inner dance, I didn't know what I was doing, but everything was known. I didn't know what I was doing, but everything was known. And I allowed this thing that knew everything to coincide with I don't know anything. So I was a hermit. I was really poor financially. I had no money, no two coins to rub with each other, but I received it. And I was being spoken that this is meant to be shared and this is going to spread. So I went ahead anyway and just kept giving it. I touched people's bodies and the bodies would move. And that's what I did. I would either like press hard or like, and then this thing was happening. It's part of history of this in where I'm coming from. And then my mother gave me a gift. It was a Christmas. My brother gave me a gift on that same Christmas. They haven't seen me in a long time. I disappeared. They didn't know if I was alive or dead. And the gift from my mom was an iPod. This was in 2008, so you might remember what the iPods looked like before. And my brother filled it with thousands of songs. And he knew my taste. I was eclectic. I liked a lot of things. So why music? Why was that there? I was activating people. I was bringing resonance to people. I would touch people and healing would happen. Healing in the beginning was interesting. I'm not so interested just in healing. You get to a point where there's nothing to heal. the more you try to heal something, it means there's something needing to be healed. So you're actually putting the problem there rather than the resonance. So when you just bring people into the state where the problem is actually an illusion, the problem isn't solved, the problem is dissolved because you went into another dimension that saw something else altogether, where the problem actually was a big part of a much larger picture. Um, so yeah, one of my problems then was I was healing people, and that was difficult because based on that, people would line up, and then I'd visit the village. It'd be a farming village, a fishing village, and people would line up outside the hut, and they would bring the sick people to me. It was like I was reenacting this religion because I actually thought that I was that being. And that's what I took on. Because when you do go into this level of dimensionality, that which you might have worshipped, you become. That which you saw as a symbol of the divine, you become. That could be like from a comic book, that could be from a religion. So I was acting that out, and it was cool. It was beautiful, but at the same time, it was inconvenient because you don't actually have any more time for yourself, right? You're healing people, but you want to smell the roses. You want to hold yourself in slowness. So I knew there was something missing, and I had to wait for it. And when my mom gave me this musical device, I never really see these as musical instruments. Like this is my studio. I see these as my brain. I see these as your brain. I see these as brains, and I don't see this as the brain. The brain, according to the philosopher of neuroplasticity, the brain is not a brain that holds history. The brain is our history, meaning the way information had organized is the brain. How electricity was able to organize itself into infinite pathways of complexity, that's the brain. So if you manage to like move electricity and magnetism, that's the brain, and the brain extends into now the global brain. So my mom gave me this iPod, and there was so much music in it. My brother gave me this small, tiny speaker, really bad quality. It was cute because it was like a case, and you could put the iPod in it, and I was traveling. So simple back then. I wouldn't accept money. I wouldn't ride airplanes. I would walk. Um, Later, I had to adapt so that I could, get to places and function as a human being. When I back then maybe I wasn't a human being. Um, so I basically realized that when you sequence songs in a certain pattern, and I saw the pattern even before I understood what that pattern was, and we'll talk about what pattern is. What is that pattern that's used in the work that seems to always do it? So I drew a pattern, and then I looked at the songs that were in the iPod, and my brother is just as eclectic as I am. There was like electronic dance music, there was Pink Floyd, there was Michael Jackson, there was like there was everything in it basically. Like Steve Jobs called it like 1,000 songs in your pocket. That was his gift to his daughter Lisa. When before that it would be like 12 songs in your Sony Walkman. I looked at it and I saw the pattern. The basic reason why I used music was this. I didn't have to heal one person at a time. I realized that I could have 10 to 100 people in the room, and we would spend an hour, and the thing would just do it, and then I could walk away. It was sustainable, it was scalable. So the music then became the container. and it held so much understanding of all these thought domains that I mentioned about culture, about language, about the mind. I think it's the missing piece in the cognitive sciences. um, it's not even so much about producing music, it's about learning how to receive music. It's about how the body can receive the message that's in there. Um, so the inner dance, I'm gonna do a time check. Oh wow, we're over time. Let me cap things. Uh, there's a whole history of inner dance, and the music, the changes in the music from the very beginning in 2008, which was limited by the technology we had then, which was just when analog was starting to get digitized. And analog is very sequential. Digital is not. It can process all the information now more and more, you know. It doesn't take that much space to process like that much. And this is the processor. The changes in the music from sequential to simultaneity, time-based music into space-oriented music within the pattern that rises and falls, that affects brain regions. This is what we're going to be talking about. Like, what is the history of our consciousness that could be traced through the language of vibration that now manifests in the physical? Like, what are oscillations? And when I have these synthesizers, they're oscillators, but the neurons, the brain regions can oscillate, send oscillations of delta, theta, alpha, beta, gamma, mu, SMR, and HOF, high oscillating frequencies, lambda, epsilon. It's about how to combine these vibrations, because you're vibratory, but you're not one vibration. So this is called cross-frequency neural coupling. There's a way to hold the super slow and the super fast, but there's a way to get there. The highest vibrations need to be held by the lowest, you know, the fastest and the slowest, and the highest and the lowest in terms of pitch, tonality, and also in terms of frequency and rhythm. When you can hold that, you achieve a brain state that can hold that much. But you can't just go there. There's a method, and it's not my method. It's not an inner dance method. It's a method that we attained by being on Earth for this long. We've been talking to the Earth for this long, and the language of the Earth is the sun, the moon, light, dark, hot, cold. Some people have seasons. Some places in the world don't so much. Like every single day of the year, the sun rises and falls exactly the same time. You know, I went to Europe for the first time last year, and it was kind of weird to land there in June, and the sun was staring at me, not like 9 or 10 p.m. I felt so sick because it was so weird for my system. So like there's this code, there's this pattern written in the notebooks, that the pages of the body that holds a really old story that's formulated as a wave, and this wave has been embedded or imprinted in us over eons, over epochs, over millions, if not billions of years. We are descendants of all the organisms that came before us, and all of these had embedded the song that you know, time and space, rhythm, melody, and harmony. Rhythm is in time, and harmony holds many things in space simultaneously, and melody dances through time and space. So there's a song, and this is a song, and that's sung by what's called brain, breath, and blood. Brain brain is melodic. It can dance through, breath is harmonic, and blood pulses. It's rhythmic. So you're going to be given a lot of power, because when you bear these gifts, you will alter brain, breath, and blood. And brain, breath, and blood aren't just brain, breath, and blood. They encode very old patterns of fear, of trust. So you can reprogram, you can entrain any body to go to another rhythm, to find another harmonic, and the music will change. The music is changing. The music will shift forever. So that's maybe the intro. We actually sat through this for 3 hours. Thank you. I feel really landed. It's been so intensely busy reconstructing our eco-village from the storm. And I think we actually recently just made it through from all the chaos of settling into this. The system is here. It took so many years to finally get to this point where this can stabilize. We don't always have to just throw things around so that they bounce off the walls. I think we deserve to find home, to stabilize the movements, the migrations, the walkabout since the beginning of when we left the original home. I think we deserve to arrive, and this energy is speaking. It knows what it is, so you don't need to really just put it into a box, but it is containable. That which cannot be contained can be held, and that is the space. So let's keep the conversation happening. Anything that is evoked in you, you can share it in the group. Don't be shy. It's really good to share your vibration. We want to get to know you. These online processes are not meant to complete things. It's for us to get to know each other. I am by no means the teacher. I'm just one of the many people who are holding this work by now. I just have like a lot of notes in my notebook that I do want to unload, that I feel is necessary, considering how many people are holding something that they may not really actually understand. So for that reason, I'm just so honored and blessed and grateful that you are here, that you're the ones who the energy is asked to help hold integral, responsible, holistic, something that's actually quite huge. So I'm going to ask Italy, who's really good at it, to help to close this call.
We can close like a checkout ceremony that we want to hear everyone's sounds. So you can just say it's our 5 a.m. So good morning or good night, or you can unmute yourself to close the call. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pai. Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.
See you again, everyone. Bye.
Bye.